Hello everyone! Welcome back to our online crop series. My name is Luke and I work with the crop team at Hanford Mills Museum. Today we're going to be talking about maps. Have you ever looked closely at a hiking map and seen a bunch of what look like wavy lines? Something like this, for example. You can see we've got some wavy lines and some thicker wavy lines here. Well, this is a special kind of map called a contour map, and those lines are called contour lines. And they help us tell how tall something is in terms of the landscape. So if, for example, it can tell us how tall a mountain is or how deep a valley is. And today we're going to learn how to read these lines. We're also going to make our own maps, and we're even going to make our own mountains. So to start off, for our first activity, what I would like everyone to do is take a moment to take out your activity packets that look something like this and grab a pencil. Alrighty, so where do we start? Well, what we're going to want to do is to look at our worksheet. So the first thing that we want to find out is what all of these lines mean. So taking out our worksheet on page 2, we have our sheet that says map of Round Mountain. So we've made up our own mountain here. It's called Round Mountain, and it's got a lot of information on it that's going to help us to understand what we're looking at. The map key is going to tell us everything we need to know. So the map key says, for example, starting height. The height of the outer circle, or the biggest circle here, is 10 feet. So we're starting at 10 feet for our mountain. It also tells us that between each circle, there is something called a contour interval, which is the change in height of 10 feet. So every circle, so starting here, we go up 10 feet. So starting with 10 feet here, if the base of our mountain is 10 feet tall, that second circle is another 10 feet. So 10 feet plus 10 feet is 20 feet. And then the top circle, another 10 feet, because that interval tells us each line is going up 10 feet. That circle is 30 feet. So that's how tall our mountain is. It's 30 feet. 10 at the base, 20, then 30. So this map is the mountain is about a total of 30 feet. Not a huge mountain, but a really good mountain to kind of help us understanding how to read these maps. What we're going to do now is we're going to see how we can kind of think of these maps in our head as not just circles, but mountains. So talking a little bit about what mountains look from the top, that's good to know, but what we're really trying to do is kind of think in our minds and see, kind of turning a map from a flat object to something that we can really picture in our mind as a mountain. So looking at that map that we just did and thinking of that mountain, not as flat, but, oh yeah, that's a mountain, that's Round Mountain. So on sheet 3, this is how we can translate this into an actual mountain from the piece of paper into our mind's eye. So now that we can read a contour map, we're going to take another step and see what it looks like from the side of a mountain. We're usually looking, when we're hiking, at the side of a mountain. We're not usually going to be looking at it from the top. So what we have here is we have our model of Round Mountain, and what we're going to do is we are going to trace these dotted lines over to the triangle. What are we doing here? What exactly is this doing? Well, this is showing you the change in elevation, or kind of the shape of the mountain. So we know this bottom line here, this is 10 feet tall. So our bottom mountain goes here, and if we stretch it across there, that's how wide it's going to be. The second line here we stretch out. It shows you what your mountain's going to be like, kind of the middle elevation. And then the top, we know, is going to be narrower, because it's kind of like a cone if you look at it that way. So Round Mountain is wide at the bottom and narrow at the top, just like most mountains are. You're not typically going to find a mountain that looks like this. It doesn't really exist in nature. So when you're looking at a contour map, you know that when it's getting narrow up at the top, or it's getting narrow, you know the mountain's getting taller. What we're going to do now is that we've talked a little bit about how to read a map and how to envision a mountain from the side. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually make our own mountain with our Play-Doh. All right, now we get to the fun part. What we're going to do now is we're going to take out the piece of paper that looks like this. It says, use this box to design your own mountain. And we are going ahead and make our own mountain. So before you draw your mountain, make sure that you're staying within this line here, because if it's too much bigger than this, you might not have enough Play-Doh to finish it. So we're going to start by drawing our mountain with 4 or 5 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I did. Just to save us some time, I went ahead and drew it. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to put this to the side just for a second. Is we're going to take some Play-Doh, which is about 1/4 of what we've got, and try to get it as flat as possible. Just so I don't shake the camera here, I'm going to kind of knead it with my fingers, but you guys can do it on the table if you want. And once it's flattened out, again, it doesn't have to be as thin as a piece of paper, but you want it flattened out. What we're going to do is, as you can see, the biggest circle there, we're going to try to make it so this covers the biggest circle. And it does that. Now there's a trick here. Don't push down too hard on this, because otherwise the Play-Doh will stick to the paper. But what we're going to do now is kind of use the lines as a guide and start taking out the Play-Doh that doesn't fit the outline. So it's going to kind of be like a blueprint for our mountain. And we're going to do this each time for each level of our mountain. Okay, so as you can see, I try not to push down too hard, otherwise you get that stick in there. This is kind of like a footprint of that first level. And then we go on to the second level using some of our other Play-Doh. And again, we'll do this for each level until we have all 6 of our layers. Did I not hit? Okay. So that's not quite there yet, so we'll keep going with this one. Add a little bit more Play-Doh. Oops. Sometimes it'll shoot out at you if you're not careful. Okay. And again, you folks can do this on the desk. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to shake the camera. All right, let's see how it looks. Pretty close. Good. So what you can also do is, once it's on there, is kind of pull it out, knead it out, if you will. Awesome. Okay. So once that's like that, we can go ahead and move these up. Again, so we're making that outline of that shape of our contour line. Awesome. Be careful when you're lifting this up again, because sometimes it'll stick if you push too hard on it. There's our second layer of our mountain. We'll put it right on the side next to the biggest one. You can see here this leaves a couple of, sometimes it'll leave a little bit of extra Play-Doh. That'll come off if you scratch it. And then our third layer. It gets easier because it's getting smaller, and you don't have to flatten it so much, because the smaller the layers, the less Play-Doh you have to use. Layer 3. And as we get the top layers, it gets really easy. I could probably even use my scraps here to do that layer. Yeah, again. Awesome. Alrighty. Again, we're pushing it so it fits in this line here because we want to make sure the mountain looks like it does on our piece of paper. Good. And last but not least, we've got a little round top on here. Awesome. So what we're going to do now is taking our 5 layers, put this aside a second so you can see all 5 layers. We're going to stack these in the same order the mountain is. So the biggest is on the smallest. The biggest is on the bottom, I'm sorry. So bottom, and then second from the bottom. Third, fourth, and fifth. So there we have our Play-Doh mountain and our map of our mountain. What you can also do is you can use your fingers to gently kind of massage the Play-Doh in so it looks a little bit more natural, a little less like layers and more like one continuous kind of thing. Now you have your mountain. Depending on how much time you folks have, if you would like to continue doing this and practicing your skills, you can also use the space below here to continue making different kinds of mountains. Since you know how much Play-Doh you have and how much it uses, you can use this about the same size here and bring it down here. So I would encourage you folks to try it again and see the different kinds of mountains you get. Thank you so much for joining us for our second virtual crop program. This one was on reading maps and making mountains. I hope you all enjoyed getting the chance to play with some Play-Doh and learn how to read maps a little bit better.